On this week's show, we're discussing Naughty Dog making another new game, PlayStation Stars is dead, but a summer showcase could be incoming, and somehow Star Wars Battlefront 2 returned. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we get together and round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for the GamerGuild Podcast or GamerGuild TV and you'll find us there every Monday, 8 a.m. We go live, rounding up all of the juicy stories and news. Your podcast players for the week are myself, Chris, at Arcane Rogue, Arcane Rogue, and the returning techie teacher himself in place for Richie, Tom. Welcome back to the show.
What's up, Chris? It's good to be here.
It is. Still at Adaxis LP?
Still at Adaxis LP.
Still using it much? Or just browsing the news?
I'm pretty much dead on social media these days, to be honest with you. Beyond, like, outside Reddit and YouTube, it's just like, I don't know. I just live my life these days, you know?
The joys of parenthood. Joys of parenthood and being an adult. Of course, we do have a great show lined up for you all, but before we get into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content we do here at GamerGuild TV, like this very show, like our usual weekly broadcasts, and more importantly, our special limited-run series of the Clickercast, where we round up and break down and discuss every episode of HBO's The Last of Us, which is coming to an end. It's at its finale. We had a very special guest on this week's show. If you did miss it, it was my wife, making her first ever appearance on our content. She probably won't be on any more content because she's not a gamer, so a lot of our content is not really very specific, but she's a very big Last of Us fan. She's a huge Pedro Pascal fan, and Richie's absence, why not get together and talk about it? And a little birdie tells me that, Tom, you've not even been watching it.
No, unfortunately not. It's one of these things at the moment where it's just like subscriptions here, subscriptions there, subscriptions everywhere. Like, apparently I've still got an ongoing subscription to Paramount Plus, so like I don't even know what I'm watching anymore, to be honest with you.
It happens. But you have played the games. You have checked out Andor, though?
I am working my way through Andor. At the moment, I'm on the Gorman arc, so I'm just about to wrap that up. Literally the third episode of that arc right there. So
you're in for a cracker.
I can't wait.
So good. But speaking of subscriptions everywhere, you can support the channel a little bit further by becoming a member from as little as 99p. You can click join down below in the YouTube video and support the channel a little bit more. The four of us round up all the weekly news, and of course you get special access to early content like Richie's Pokemon Blue playthrough. He's up to part 6, is available for public, but if you're a member you get several more episodes for free included right now, plus stickers and badges next to your name in the chat every single week when we do our live streams. Now, Tom, you are back. I haven't spoke to you in a while on the show. I think you did it with Richie last time. Richie's been on with Rob. I've been on with Rob, and vice versa. But I'm really glad you're back for this week because there's a couple of games that I'd like to catch up on, which you've actually been playing and me and Richie haven't. I'm deep right now in Assassin's Creed Shadows. About 50 plus hours in, so I've wrapped up the main story. I've done the epilogue. I've just got that typical Assassin's Creed tidy up to do now. Hit all the markers, check all the side missions, a couple of intricate trophies, like I have to Spartan kick a guy off a cliff that's called This Is Japan, and of course
love it.
And I'll round up and then I'll move on to my next big game, which I'm feeling is Expedition 33. Now, we always start every show before we get into the news with what we're playing at the moment. So I'm sure our audience are fed up of me talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're fed up of Richie talking about what he's playing. So Tom, while we've got you here, you've been playing 2 games that are some of the highest rated games of this year so far. What are they and where do you want to start with this? Because I'm really keen, because this might set up mine and Richie's next game to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, I just want to give you a huge thank you once again for recommending me getting a Portal, because this thing literally has saved my gaming, like straight up changed the way that I game entirely. I'm playing this thing every night now. You made a comment right before we went live that it's just, you know, you see me online every single night now, and that is true. It's literally the best way for me to play currently, and it's allowing me this opportunity that even as a dad now, a very busy father of two, just to be able to actually get into these games. So the two games that I've been playing lately are Expedition 33, which I have so much to say about this game, and a little puzzle game called Blueprints, which I've also sank over 50 hours into at this point currently.
Wow.
Shall I start with 33? Let's go.
33 is probably the one I'm leaning to the most.
Yeah.
I looked at it. It's only £44 on Amazon as well. So
Oh
you're
my
talking
God.
like almost half the price of a AAA game going forward.
It's worth every penny of it, honestly. These guys, Sandfall, have come completely out of nowhere with what I would consider to be... It's an homage to JRPGs done by a French studio, which is just full of love. It's full of cultural inspiration, from everything from the style to the soundtrack. It's just fully inspired by what I can say is just like a true Western, but more so a Western European take on the JRPG genre. It's gorgeous, man. It's absolutely beautiful. It has characters in it that feel like real adults with real adult problems, dealing with a fantasy crisis in a world that is essentially coming to an end. The plot of the story is you just get so taken into it. You become really attached to these characters very, very quickly. You become attached to the world that they live in. And to be honest with you, I'm nowhere near the end of the game. I think I'm about 40 to 50% of the way through currently. So I'm sure I've got loads of stuff to come. But it is just turn after turn of just event, like something that just keeps your interest going. It has such lovable characters, even through not just the human characters, but even they're called the Gestrals. We have Esquier as well, who's this huge, lovable marshmallow type character.
Oh, yeah.
They're just so relatable, and you just make a connection with them that just really makes you want to play more of this game. It's a game that I go away and I just keep thinking like, I can't wait to play the next part of this. And then as soon as I get into it, I'm just like, ooh, I'm gonna go off the beaten path. Like, I'm gonna go onto the beaten path a little bit here and just sort of like, have a look around this corner, see what's down here, because it doesn't do a great job of leading you where you want, like where you should be going, but it leaves it open enough that you can play around and you can have a look, and without sort of like, there's no sort of like waypoint mechanic, or there's no sort of like there is a collectible in this area, so it does allow you that opportunity to explore, and I do quite like that, especially in the world, because they've really used the Unreal Engine to such an extent that this game is so beautiful. Just everything about it. Honestly, I cannot say, I just don't have a bad word to say about this game whatsoever.
Yeah, the rise of Unreal Engine 5 has just allowed like new studios, indie studios, to really take what creativity they have and put it into practice. And I think this is a great testament to that, of just everything about it looks stunning. I think the big question for me is how is the combat? Because I think why I'm leaning into it is game with story, I'm all over. But I was saying to Richie, it seems to have this good striking combination of those JRPG elements, where I played Final Fantasy 16 for the first time 2 years ago. That was my first ever Final Fantasy. Absolutely adored it. And then beginning of last year, I got the platinum in Sea of Stars, which was a more turn-based, traditional, like old school JRPG with the characters and the little bit of story. And I was like, this feels like it's those amalgamated into one. And I think it feels like it's right for me, even though I'd probably have dismissed it in the past. So what's the combat like? I always get the Persona vibes from the trailer, because it's got the pop-up action and it is like turn-based. Would you say the combat's more frenetic, like the more modern Final Fantasies, or is it very traditional stop-start, turn-based?
It's sort of in a nice sweet spot, is what I would say. I'd actually say that for me personally, the combat is probably the highlight of all of it. From the fluidity of it, it just feels like these characters that you're playing at are just really, really powerful entities in what they are, but against like an even stronger entity that you're up against. It is turn-based. It is very much skill based in the sense that you know as you're leveling up your characters, you unlock skills and you set those skills that you can use in combat. But there's a layer to it that's a little bit deeper. There's a quick time element to it. So when you pick your ability, you have to input like a button command after during using that skill, just to make sure that you actually land it and you're not just being bone idle. Basically, there's some sort of like interactivity to it, but it's not like Final Fantasy 16, which is a lot more action based, I suppose, really, which is very real time. No, this is, you have your characters, they have a speed stat that sort of identifies like where in the hierarchy that they're actually taking their turn. If you think sort of like akin to a Baldur's Gate 3, I suppose, in that sort of sense. Like, you have your characters, they take turns in that order. You play your skill, you play your attack, you use an item. But the thing that I really like about the combat system in Expedition 33 is the responses to enemy attacks. So you have a lot of there's a lot more to it than just like, oh, I hit you, you hit me, I heal the hit that you've taken. There's an ability to parry, so you have almost like a Souls-like element to it. So if you time it just right, you can parry enemy attacks. It gets you start to think about, and when you're taking on multiple enemies, you have to recognize that they have different attack patterns. So you have to very much be responsive to like how these enemies are attacking. Or you have a dodge mechanic that sort of has like a slightly larger window for response compared to the parry. But it has less benefits to dodging. So a parry might end up with a counter attack, which again, just things from like the camera angles that are used, the animations that they've put into these characters, it just really makes you feel like these characters are powerful when they're counter attacking. And as you get deeper into the game, you unlock a few other mechanics. So I won't really go into those at this stage, but it certainly keeps that sort of like it keeps it fresh. And not only that, but every single character also has their own play style too. So they have their own sets of sort of ways that they interact. So one character has stances that they move between depending on the ability, and those stances will affect how much damage they deal versus how much damage they take. You have a character that has a sort of cycle that goes around, and different abilities will move that cycle a certain number of notches, and depending on what notch you land on, that'll also affect your abilities. And there's more to it than just that. So it's not just what you see on the surface, but I think it's a great first opportunity for a real sort of action based, turn based, quick time combat system. I think it's very, very good. Yeah, very good.
It's just everything but praise I'm hearing. In our Discord, there's a group of guys who I think finished it recently, and they were straight in with Game of the Year, hands down Game of the Year. And we're only just into the we're still in the first half of the year, so that's one I think I'll have to take. Every time you finish a massive game, you sit down and go, right, where do I go next? Do I need a palate cleanser? Do I go back to some comfort food in the form of like FIFA, Call of Duty, like a familiar home one? Or do I go straight to this? And I feel like I'm hearing so much praise. I don't want to miss out on this. And then something else big comes out and it ends up getting missed out for this year. Because by the sounds of it, it should be right up my street. You said you've also been playing Blueprints, which is one of the PlayStation Plus games for last month, I believe it was. Straight in day one launch. But again, similar indie game. Not quite to the extent Unreal Engine's used. But nice little puzzle game that's a little bit different. So do you want to tell us a little bit about Blueprints as well?
This is a game that I've got. I feel like secretly I've sort of like been planting a seed in people's like minds, like my friends who don't normally play a lot of games. I've been talking about if you're a board game enthusiast, like if you like playing board games and you don't really enjoy video games so much, this is the game that you want to really be playing. You essentially have you play as a character who has inherited this mansion, and this mansion has a 5-tile by 9-tile floor plan. Each area within that floor plan changes every single day. So as you enter the main the main entrance hall, you have 3 doors. You open a door, and what essentially happens is there's a roguelite element to it where you draw 3 different rooms that you can place in that location. Depending on which way you're actually facing when you open that door, that's also going to play on the orientation of that room as well. So the idea is you need to try to navigate to find this hidden room 46. There's a whole series of puzzles that you have to solve along the way. Every single room has some sort of mechanic to it that is not always as obvious as it seems on the surface, but it is just absolutely riddled with puzzles. If you love like logical puzzles, if you like problem solving, that kind of thing, and if you really just love getting taken into like the lore of a video game, as you read more and more, you just start to realize that actually there's a shitload in this game that I need to actually discover. That you find that even when you hit that room 46, when you find that room 46, you're barely scratching the surface of this game. There is so much more beyond it that is just, it's one of these that I'm sort of like gunning this one at this stage to be Indie of the Year for sure, by far.
Right. So yeah, this one reminds me, like the setup for the puzzles reminds me of The Witness, just with maybe a bit more story to it because of the elements of the house and the room and such, and obviously different art style. But isn't it mad that you just get out of nowhere 2 games from the first game from these companies, and they're both, as you said, right up there with Game of the Year.
Oh yeah.
And the veterans, the likes of Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed Shadows, probably aren't even in the conversation, and they've been doing it for 25 plus years now, and yet these newcomers come along. Something unique, something different. They've grew up on those games like Assassin's Creed and such, and they just make these absolute pieces of art. So you're thinking indie game and Game of the Year for you so far for the 2?
I am really on that hype train for those 2 at the moment. Yeah, it's just so refreshing that you say, like, as we've got these studios that have just come out of nowhere just with these games, that we've got 2 absolute bangers is what they are. That is literally how I would see it. Like, they are essentially the only 2 games that I'm playing at the moment. Expedition 33 has very much got me wanting to like get back into my Final Fantasies though, so I've sort of like been spending the last couple of days reinstalling them on the PlayStation, just getting them ready to go. But no, I still find myself just wanting to play these 2 games currently. So as I say, I'm sort of like over the 50-hour mark with Blueprints, and I'm about 25 hours into Expedition 33. Wow. Not quite the halfway point yet, so I reckon that's about a 35-40-hour game if you're just gunning straight for the end, really. No, absolutely amazing games, honestly.
So out of the 75 hours, how much of that time do you think you would have not been able to find if you hadn't purchased the PlayStation Portal?
I doubt I'd be even scratching the surface, to be honest with you. Like, honestly, the Portal has been so life-changing. To the point that my wife says, like, just sit down here and watch the TV while I got the Portal going. I'm just like, yes, finally, I've cracked that nut.
Living the dream. I know loads of people in our audience have picked one up as well after like initial reservations, but then they added the cloud gaming thing on, and then Richie got one as well, and it was like, see, I'm telling you, it's got more layers to it.
Absolutely.
And then now we're at the point where all the rumours and speculation about the ROG Ally Xbox branded one, and then next year there's going to be a bespoke Xbox first-party device. Mm-hmm. And me and Richie are both kind of at that point where the Portal does such a good job at mirroring that PlayStation experience on the go. I'm kind of reluctant to pay, because it's only, $199? I'm reluctant to pay like 300, 400, 500 for a dedicated handheld device when the Portal kind of does everything I need it to. So they've got an interesting pivot, especially with the Switch 2 coming out as well. That market for handhelds is so almost like it's about to become more volatile than it ever has been because there's so many players. And obviously Nintendo traditionally had that history with it, but with the cloud gaming, we know here at this channel about cloud gaming and the rise of it and the quality of it now. Like, I don't question playing on the Portal once; it just feels native. So it's an interesting place we're in. But Tom, thank you for that 2 bits of insight. I think Expedition 33. Do let us know in the comments, folks, what you're playing next, which you think we should play next. But we've, of course, got plenty of news to talk about as well, and we can't get into that, Tom, until you introduce us to
the graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka the news.
The news. And as always, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, those fantastic people who support the channel that extra little bit further, just like you can, as I mentioned earlier, from as little as 99p. And you should go do it. I've been giving the people who listen on audio feeds a little bit of shit recently, Tom, because they're the freeloaders. We don't get any revenue from audio feeds, and yet we pay for it every single month. So if you want to give any abuse towards them, now is the opportunity. But we love them all, really. Right, busy week. Quite PlayStation-centric this week. We are about 3 weeks away from... Actually, maybe even 2 weeks away from Summer Game Fest. So it's starting to percolate now. The rumours are getting out there. The leaks are getting out there. There's interviews. There's stuff that we'll get into. But we'll start with story number one. Naughty Dog are apparently working on a new game alongside Intergalactic. Now, I've not caught up with you since they announced Intergalactic and revealed the trailer for it. What was your first take on that? It ain't Uncharted. It ain't The Last of Us. It's in space. What was your initial take on this?
Come on, man. You know me in sci-fi.
I do.
You know me in sci-fi. Like it just ticks all the boxes. There's just something about that, like that futuristic retro wave vibe that they've got about it as well. That 80s sort of tech, but moving into the future. I love it. Everything from the sword that looks like it's got those like audio bars, the digital bars on it. The Sony Walkman to sort of like tape deck in the car, the interior, the branding. I mean, the first thing for me was like, I actually can kind of vibe with the branding, like seeing things like the Porsche, seeing things like, the sports brands and stuff in the game. I can go with that. I can get along with it because I like the idea of just like, this is what an alternate future could look like if everything goes the way it is.
It grounds it in a weird way, right? Doesn't it? Even though
it does.
In a game, it kind of looks weird because it's a game, and like the brands are usually like fake knockoff versions of everything. Like GTA is going to be filled with like, remember the little pear on the back of the iPhones in GTA? Yeah. Whereas actually having that license to just go, no, it's like, time escalated in the 80s and space became a possibility in the 80s. So why wouldn't them huge tech brands still be there? And I think it's interesting for Naughty Dog because they've never traditionally done it. But I think it just makes the world feel more lived in and real.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing more about it and sort of, I'm sure we'll touch on it in a little bit, but I'm very hopeful that we see something soon about the game.
It's an interesting timeline because obviously we had The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020 now, alongside Ghost of Tsushima in that summer. And then here we are, fast forward, we're getting Ghosts of Yotei later on this year. We've seen a trailer for that. We've now got Intergalactic as well. But Naughty Dog, in the meantime, we know they had The Last of Us faction sequel that was worked on for a couple of years and then canned, unceremoniously cut dead alongside Blue Point's project, alongside all these other teams entirely for that 12-game live service push. And seemingly, it's not paid off. It really hasn't paid off. They're winding the clock back on loads. We've got... we had news last week of Fair Games. Remember J.J. Raymond, formerly of Stadia? She left Haven last week. So then who knows where Fair Games is going to end up being. Concord obviously absolutely shit the bed. And you just do wonder, PlayStation, for all the goodwill and the power they had. Me and Richie both sit on the fence of, I think Xbox is starting to smash it out the park with the recent things that have came out. But in terms of Naughty Dog's focus, the reason it's in the news this week is we knew they were working on Intergalactic. I think it's going to be epic. Naughty Dog have never led me astray. In my entire life of gaming, from Crash Bandicoot when I was 5-year-old, all the way up to The Last of Us Part 2, they have never led me astray with a phenomenal game, and they've only got better over time. Neil Druckmann, obviously, doing the rounds this week with The Last of Us TV show. Naturally, he's going to get asked on every single podcast he's on. What are you up to? What's happening with Intergalactic? Do we see Uncharted come back? Where's The Last of Us Part 3? And he was quoted this week on the Press X Continue podcast. And I quote, then there's another game that's been worked on at Naughty Dog where I'm in more of a producer role and I get to mentor, watch this other team and give feedback and be the executive in the room. I enjoy all of those roles, and the fact that I jump from one to the next makes my job very exciting and always feels fresh. I'm never bored. So obviously this is Neil Druckmann, who's now an award-winning director of television as well as a game director and a Naughty Dog co-founder. If it ain't Intergalactic, what are we thinking, Tom? We thinking another new IP, or is this The Last of Us Part? Is it a spin-off? Are we finally returning to the well of Uncharted? Like I don't know. What do you want? Is it a Jack and Daxter reboot?
I don't know. It's one of these things really that I highly doubt they're actually working on another new IP at this point. I feel
Mm,
like when it comes to a studio like Naughty Dog, it's better that they put all of their eggs in one basket and just focus, like, the core team on the new IP. Let's really knock it out the park. Let's do what we do best and make these really rich story-driven games. Um my gut instinct is to lean towards a sort of a sequel, but then I think about the franchises that stick out are what Uncharted and The Last of Us, and where we're at right now. I can't really see Druckmann sort of taking on a backseat role, kind of on either of them
mm,
really. So I wonder whether this is a response in the sort of looking at those, yes, to the AAA standard, but like again the kind of games I've been playing at the moment, these not as long games, but still very much full of story, very much full of something you can get your teeth into.
yeah.
Could it be a spin-off potentially? Potentially?
Well, there's been rumors for a long time of an Uncharted game that was spun up at a Sony San Diego studio, but they never officially announced it. They never said
Okay.
like the studio exists, but we knew there was like job listings and people worked on them. But just looking at the timeline, as you said, I think Neil Druckmann's baby has always been The Last of Us. You've
Yeah.
got to remember he came on to Naughty Dog when Uncharted 2 was in production, but it was Amy Hennig who worked on that one predominantly, and then into
Yeah.
Uncharted 3, Neil kind of took over as they moved into Uncharted 4. And then that's when Amy left and they kind of rewrote lots of chunks of the story for Uncharted 4, and that ended up being what it was. But that was 10 years ago now. Lost
Oh yeah.
Legacy, we got that little spin off game with Chloe and Nadine. That was 2016. So it's been 9 years since that. Between the Last of Us faction shutting down, I do think it's scope for a smaller title. And myself and Richie thought for the longest of time they would have given it to Bend, who finished off Days
Okay.
Gone about 5-6
Yeah.
years ago. They made Uncharted Golden Abyss for the Vita, so they had literally familiar award-winning success in this franchise. And then we thought, well, actually, Bluepoint also did the Uncharted trilogy remaster, and they made Dark Souls for the PlayStation launch 2019. So they've not been doing anything for several years either. And then we got that announcement last month or the month before where their project's being canned, Ben's project's being canned. So none of these studios are working on anything, which makes me now think: is anyone making anything at PlayStation Studios? But
Does feel that way.
yeah, Sean Eskeg, who was the director for Uncharted Lost Legacy, he's been rumored for a long time to be leading a second unannounced game with someone who worked on The Last of Us Part 2. So it feels like there's something
Okay.
in there. I personally, if those other studios that I've just mentioned weren't working on it, I would love it to be in-house at Naughty Dog. And I think another smaller Uncharted game in the
Yeah.
meantime, while Neil's clearly wrapping up on whatever he's doing with The Last of Us. We got the complete Last of Us edition of 1 and 2 that came out this month. So that makes me feel them titling it The Last of Us Complete Edition. I feel like they're almost like done with that story as well. So,
Yeah.
but I think you're right in saying juggling two new IP, I think, is a big risk. You almost need the comfort food for your audience and for your employees. By all means, go off and do Intergalactic, make this whole new thing, which I'm sure will be phenomenal. But as a risk aversion tactic from a business standpoint, I think you got to go safe on one of the bets. So you've at least got some guaranteed money. And let's face it, if they do another Uncharted or another, hell, even a Jack and Daxter reboot, it will make them money because it's a known quantity. But like I said, they've never left me astray before, so whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Do you think there's an audience out there for Jack and Daxter? Because that's the one thing that I'm kind of feeling at the moment, like a younger audience, I suppose, really. Because you've got this sort of landscape at the moment where everyone's playing games like your Fortnite and stuff like that, and your Roblox. Where the Jack and Daxter, is it going to appeal more so to people our age who grew up with those franchises like being available on PlayStation, or is it going to be something that you think Naughty Dog could pitch to a younger audience?
Well, it's all these studios that they cut their teeth on like platformer mascots because that's what that's where the industry was at the time, and they've all kind of matured and grew up and evolved into these phenomenal AAA storytelling adventures. But then on the flip side, look at Astrobot last year.
Yeah.
That absolutely smashed it out of the park. Game of the Year, award winning, sold millions of copies. And I think there's almost like a business practicality where you need to keep feeding the younger audience because they're your audience of tomorrow. A 10-year-old today, like we were joking, me and Richie feeling old as hell the other day. We were saying when we started this channel, you've got people who are kids who are maybe 11 or 12. They're now 18. And they're leaving college. They're getting a job for the first time. They will have disposable income. They will be thinking, right, well, I played Mario, or not even Mario, because again, what are the kids of today playing? Like you said, Fortnite. I think PUBG's like 10-year-old at this point nearly. And it's like games that we just take for granted. Like kids grew up playing them with their friends, talking about it in the playground. And then, they get to that point where, shit, they're adults now. Like, where do they spend their gaming money, their hard-end gaming quids? And I think you've got to keep your toe in that, like Ratchet and Clank, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Croc, like Gex, all these things that we grew up with. We've got that inherent nostalgia. Like Sackboy was phased out of the PlayStation Studios intro 2 weeks ago, and Astrobot's in there now, and it's like, oh, R.I.P. Sackboy. But they needed to keep doing something. So even if they totally took a step out of their old school book and just made a new mascot character, and it was a small little something totally different that wasn't even Naughty Dog, I'd like that just as much, I think. But yeah, with this, it's an absolute toying cost, I think, where it could actually go. But we know they're big enough to work on 2 games at the same time, because Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, Uncharted 3, sorry, were in tandem at the same time, and then they all merge back together for Last of Us 2, and they can split off, because I think when you're a big enough studio, it's just about time and money, right? And Naughty Dog should have infinite time and money just as much as the next studio, because they are one of the best in the business. But
absolutely,
we'll have to wait to find out, and we may find out soon enough, Tom, because there are rumours of a state of play in the works. However, before we get to that news, our second story of the week, PlayStation Stars is coming to a close. Reading from the official blog, this isn't PlayStation All Stars, which there is going to be a trailer playing for that, but I thought I don't want a boring trailer playing for just a business effort at a reward program for people. PlayStation Stars, of course, you may remember, is the reward program they launched only a year or so ago to give people points to accrue to spend on games, to spend on in-game currency. Reading from the blog, though, this is Vice President Grace Chen from the Loyalty and License Merchandise team. Sun Interactive were always experimenting with new and exciting ways to bring our community of players together to share the joys of gaming and create lasting memories. That's why 3 years ago we created PlayStation Stars, a loyalty program to celebrate our players. This unique program, blah, blah, blah. She goes on to tell you what it's about. Starting today, there's some key changes. PlayStation Stars will no longer accept new members to this version of the program. So if you ain't in now, you're out. If members choose to cancel a PlayStation Stars membership today, it's not going to be possible to rejoin, and they will lose all earned points. Digital collectibles are still going to be able to be spent, and you can still join campaigns from now. But essentially, this version of the PlayStation Stars program will fully end November 2nd, 2026, and the current Stars members cannot continue to redeem points after that point. They will expire. They want to thank all players for supporting it since launch, and as we look to explore new ways to evolve the loyalty programs for future efforts. PlayStation Stars, Tom, did it ever have a chance? Did you ever use it? Did you ever redeem anything from it?
I mean, I'm looking at the app right now, and I'm just checking out that I am level 2 with 1,300 points. So, nah, I've very rarely, like, very just... I don't even understand, really, if I'm being honest with you. I'm looking through it, and I'm just thinking, what? I don't know much about it. I'll be honest with you.
It's literally, I think it was to compete with Xbox points, where, every time you purchase something digitally, or you completed, like, a monthly campaign, they'd give you points, and you could...
Like a cashback scheme.
Yeah, you could spend them in the PlayStation Store. So I tended to jump on every other month or something and just start on the app. You can just start the campaigns. So it's like play a PlayStation Plus catalog game. It's God of War's anniversary. Play a God of War game. And basically, you just pick up points, and then you can spend them.
That's fair. I've just noticed that I can actually afford £5 in the PlayStation Store with my points, so yeah. I'll claim that one right now.
So that would be it. I've got 1,200 points at the moment, so I don't know what that makes me eligible for. But yeah, I think me and Richie have both got 1 or 2 purchases. I think I made a Helldivers purchase out of it at some point. Nice. But as you said, I think it's either not been financially viable for PlayStation. Or there's something underlining, because it was pulled down. It paused temporarily a couple of months back because I think they had tech issues or cyber attack issues. People were worried about that, and then now they've just kind of called it a day. So I'm not too sure. I'm not too surprised. It does seem a good way to reward players. I always felt it should have leaned more into the trophy side of things. Like if you were getting the platinum trophy in games, that means you are pretty much pouring your heart and soul into the work. So I feel like it could have rewarded you on a trophy basis. So you get like 10 points for every bronze, 20 points for every silver, 50 points for every gold, and then maybe 100 points for platinum. So like the equivalent of like a £1 cashback for every platinum trophy. So if you're out there really playing these games to their death, the more you play, the more you get rewarded, right? Whereas this one, having to sign up to campaigns and check your app, and it almost like convoluted it too much. But I can't say I'm surprised to see it go. Although you've still got a year ahead of it going, but plenty of notice to, I guess. It's probably like a legal thing, right, to wind down the points. So they give people more than enough notice to knock them on the head or spend them. So
fair enough.
We shall see.
Fair enough.
But in the midst of all that, we'll move on because it's not a really exciting story to the PlayStation State of Play rumored event. So as I said, we've got Summer Game Fest coming up on the 6th. We've got an Xbox showcase on the Sunday that follows. There's no doubt, I think, a couple of like indie showcases in between. I think Devolver Digital are doing something, and there'll be a couple of other streams all over that weekend. A couple of things that are lined up for the rumored State of Play. Key date, 4th of June is the Switch 2. So we've got a brand new handheld Nintendo console, the first one in, 9 years now since the original Switch came out, launching into the wild. And then in amongst all these showcases, PlayStation are going to want in on some of the action, right? You would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So from a State of Play then, I guess even before we get into that, Tom, where are you sitting on the Nintendo Switch 2 front? Is this one for you, the kids? Are they interested in it? Are you going to... Like, how old's your eldest now? How close are we to...
Josh is going to be turning 4 not long after the Switch 2 launches. So about a month later. He's enjoying his gaming. He likes to play some of the classic Nintendo games. So he's been jumping on with the Nintendo Switch Online membership and jumping into the old Super Nintendo games, playing some Donkey Kong. He likes some Donkey Kong Country, which is one that we've enjoyed putting him on there. Where do we sit with the Switch 2 right now? We've talked about it. It's an idea. I think at this point we are going to hang back, try to let the first wave come out, let all the stocking issues, pricing issues, etc. get worked out, and see how it goes. But I'm very much interested. I will say Mario Kart World is definitely one that's been like on my radar. I've always been a Mario Kart kind of guy. So
I could definitely see you, the wife, and Josh sitting down and blasting Mario Kart for a few hours on a Friday evening or something.
Absolutely.
It is one of them weird things, like thinking of like first, like, would you buy it for you though, do you think, or would it be for him? Like, this is the thing, it's like I'm guessing you probably got your first console around about 5, similar to me. Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo, whatever it was. So he's getting close to that age where it's like, actually, he might want his own.
Well, this is the thing we've been talking about. We've given him a 3DS is what he's currently got. He's got the old 3DS, but he doesn't really play on it much. He's very much sort of like taken on with your sort of simple platformers. Like I say, some of the older platformers when playing on the Switch. We've been playing a lot of Mario Maker 2. I found that was a really good way to get him into gaming. He really enjoyed playing other people's creations, creating our own little worlds, and going through that sort of process there. But he loves playing Crash and Spyro, which is, first of all, thank you, whatever power is up there to allow that to actually happen. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, it's something I'm sort of slowly drip feeding, I suppose, really, like the kind of games that I think he could be interested in. I think where we'd be at right now, if we were to buy a Switch 2, it would be a family Switch 2, like it would stay downstairs on the large TV. I think as he gets older, we'd probably look more to making the older Switch become his console. That kind of hand-me-down process.
Because he will drop it.
Oh yeah, he did. He dropped it right outside the front door the other day on our pavement, and you've never seen me just literally fall to my knees so fast.
So I take it he's not really playing the Portal too much at the moment.
Not allowed to touch it. It lives in Daddy's drawer. It's nope. It's a no.
So yeah, the Switch 2. It's mad that it's came around so quick because it was so long ago. And I guess leading into that, then, if the rumored PlayStation State of Play now, I'm at that point of the year where I feel like I'm quite satiated. We have a little bit of an insight into the Switch's lineup. So I think like Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be great. I think that's going to sell. Obviously, Mario Kart's going to sell like 80 million plus with its attach rate. But from PlayStation, we know about Ghost of Yotai, as I mentioned before, the follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima. We know about Intergalactic, but then I think all this turmoil that's going on behind the scenes with like live service games, I don't really know what any studio's working on to care that much. It seems such a weird place. From they built up that legacy of third-person story action adventure games, and it put them on the radar with like the PlayStation 4's success, and that's then followed on to PS5, while Xbox meandered and shit the bed with the Xbox One generation. But now we're at a point where Xbox have gobbled up all these studios, and their output is now, we're getting a game like every other month. I don't know if you played South of Midnight recently. Oh, that's a beautifully stunning little game, and it's only about 20 hours to complete as well. Definitely recommend that one. I felt like I learned a lot about the soul of the South, in Splash Mountain, Disney World, like that kind of going down the bayou and that. Absolutely adored that game. And then Richie was playing Oblivion Remaster, just out of nowhere, got dropped. And then we were talking about Fallout Vegas Remaster. There's like Outer Worlds 2 coming out. You've got Doom dropped last week, Doom Dark Ages. There's the Forza game just dropped on PlayStation 5, and it's one of the top selling games of the year. It just feels like they're firing on all cylinders, and then we kind of, it's almost like that meme of the poke with the stick, go and do something, PlayStation. And if Naughty Dog haven't got anything due yet, Ghost of Yotai is coming out. Like just what, and all the other ones have had their stuff cancelled. It feels like we're just we're in the same void that Xbox were in 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. State of play, I don't really know.
Is it? Here's the thing. So I'm sort of thinking at the moment, with imminent games that are coming out, you're probably guaranteed to see something a little bit more on, Ghost of Yotai for sure. I think we've got Death Stranding 2 is literally right around the corner as well.
That's very true. Yeah, it did fit that. Forget that one.
Other things as well other than that, the only other one that I think is imminent is Remedy's new PvE game, FBC Firebreak. Firebreak's coming out. So in terms of something new being shown, how do you feel if I were to say Insomniac and Wolverine?
I mean, it's one that was it was announced
am I
like
mad?
what? No, I mean you shouldn't be. It was announced how far back now? Spider-Man 2 was like 2023.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. Is it time now that we've had that announcement? We had that sort of like teaser from them some time ago, and
so
they've been cooking for a while. They've been cooking.
So yeah,
do we get
that tease? The Marvel's Wolverine was teased at the 2021 PlayStation Showcase in the summer.
Yeah, here we are 4 years later, right? 4 years. Think about that development life cycle with like, Red Dead 2 took however many years. We've got, you've got your Naughty Dog games that if you look at like the timeline of how long it is between each of them, are we ripe then? This is me like I'm digging deep here. I'm digging deep. I'm getting like that. I'm really sort of like feeding some rumors and stuff. let's just really go for it. Is it time to see Wolverine? Is it Insomniac's time to show us what they've been working on?
I think it should be, and I think I don't think you're far off the pace on that one. I think a double hit of Ghost of Yotai in the August, and then Wolverine. Maybe back end of October, start of November, like a double hit at the back end of the year.
Do they show us at the State of Play, or do they save it for Summer Game Fest?
I could see them
whichever way around it is.
I could see them wrapping up Summer Game Fest with it. Just because I think it's big enough.
It's an Insomniac game.
Yeah,
right.
They're going to want it there on the biggest audience, and I think a State of Play, I don't think would pull in the same audience that Summer Game Fest would now. Like Jeff's done this great job, and we know they've shown off like Last of Us content before there, Spider-Man content. So they're clearly happy for Jeff to go ahead with their big top guns. So I mean, it's got to be right 2021, and we had the leaks as well, so we knew the game was in like a fully playable state, albeit not with all the fully rendered textures and stuff like that. And the storyline was roughly mapped out. But as you said, even the leaks were about a year ago. So. And a team like Insomniac, we know from the Spider-Man games, they're able to churn these titles out way more efficiently than any other studio is. And it's still in the same city Spider-Man is. So they've kind of already got the foundation.
They'll have the assets from Spider-Man 2, surely.
Yeah.
If they're working on the same sort of system, obviously with the Wolverine character instead. But I'm just thinking of sort of like riding the high of Deadpool and Wolverine. You've got all of the news that's been about Avengers Doomsday recently. It's just I'm sort of feeling that gap at the moment, I suppose, for that next big Marvel game. So I wonder, is the time now right for Insomniac to step up to the plate and to actually say, here it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right in saying it does seem a bit disingenuous because Death Stranding is out next month. Marathon is out from Bungie, which it is going on all platforms, but it's still technically a PlayStation studio. Now they own Bungie. We did get Saros confirmed from the Returnal team, Housemarque.
Yes. Yeah.
So there is stuff in the pipeline. I just feel like it's not traditional PlayStation. And I think in another year, I would be like, getting that day one. And as we pull away from the Uncharted, The Last of Us, the God of Wars, Spider-Man's, like the third-person action adventure games into these like various different things, I don't know, are they losing me as a die-hard game? Like, you know what I mean? Like, as things evolve and change, as we alluded to with the Nintendo Switch, you kind of graduate and evolve into different things. And am I just hitting a different phase in my life now where I'm not that type of gamer anymore, or I don't like what they're offering? You almost like you go to a buffet and you go to your favorites, but then you're not going to have them forever. It's interesting, but I'd like to think they're going to have one. It's been a while since we had an actual showcase. They keep doing state of plays, which tells me it's like they're not all in. They're just like, we'll put a state of play in because we have to show something. We probably have contractual obligations to showcase our partners, trailers and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We don't have to wait long anyway. 2 weeks. And Jeff will reveal all to the world, so we'll know much more from then. One thing we do know about from this week, moving our stories along, is Stellar Blade will be getting a sequel. The developers Shift Up, which again, back to our earlier point at the beginning of the show, their first big game. Stellar Blade looks stunningly beautiful, won loads of awards last year, and here we are. They've quietly announced that its acclaimed sci-fi hack and slash adventure Stellar Blade will be getting a sequel, and it looks to arrive before the end of next year, so they're able to turn it around very, very quick as well. This is part of the recent investor presentation that they hosted, mentioning Stellar Blade's sequel and highlighting in the slide as an IP expansion, plans for 2025 and 2026. This includes a free-to-play sci-fi shooter called Goddess of Victory, which did get a mention, but also Project Witches, which is a Stellar Blade sequel and platform expansion. So they're expecting an arrival on PC by the end of this year, and then they've got high hopes for a sequel next year. Did you get around to playing Stellar Blade, Tom, or...
I did not, but it is very high on my list of games that I want to get still.
Yeah, this is one.
So sort of like that back catalogue. It's very much on that list of what
it's
I want
in
to play.
there. Of course, it's had loads of like skin crossovers and stuff now as well. They had Nier Automata, I think, was the last one. Yeah, I played the demo for this. I had a great time with it when it came to PlayStation about a month early, and it was just done where I think I didn't have time. Yeah. Which seems to be a common topic on this channel, but I just didn't have time to kind of sink into the full one. But what I was thrilled with is it had huge success. I think it got so much criticism early doors for like, the body shape of the main character is not. It's like it's a game. It's a game, right? Like these devs know sometimes that if you put something in, there's lots of thirsty gamers out there. And you know what? We can live in a world where things can be like this and they cannot be like this. But you don't have to discredit the story, the gameplay, the action, the music, just because of how the character looks, for better or for worse. It's a game. It isn't real. It's all fiction. It's all made up. So if you want to go play it, absolutely. I'm not surprised by a sequel. I didn't expect it to come so soon.
Hey, these Asian studios, they work quick.
They do. They graft and get on with it. Stellar Blade 2 sequel, hopefully coming next year. Second sequel conversation this week. I actually almost missed this one in our news, but I'm glad that I did pick it up. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 just got confirmation that we'll be seeing a PS5 Enhanced Edition coming later on this summer. Again, surprised they didn't save this for the showcase. Like, just drop it into your showcase. It's like
dropping this news randomly.
It's coming, which in a way, it almost means that the showcase is so stacked they've had to push this out of it, which could be like a really good win in itself. I think me and Richie were talking about Oblivion remaster. They could have announced that next month and stealth dropped it, but instead they decided to push it 6 weeks earlier, 4 weeks earlier, on the back of other games. Like, I think I played South of Midnight, and after a fortnight, Oblivion dropped, and then another fortnight, Doom dropped, and it was almost like I can't keep up with the pace. And then now Xbox are like, oh yeah, here's this one, and you just think, have they got that much to show us? And then last week they came out with the Gears of War coming to PlayStation, and it was like, shit, I just can't breathe.
It's one of these things where I feel that Microsoft and Xbox, they've kind of got their heads on with knowing what they want to do and how they want to pitch their games all of a sudden. That, yes, we've been shitting on them for so long, but they finally actually got their marketing strategy right. They know what they want to do, and I think it's a good marketing strategy. Whereas I feel like Sony is sort of, I won't say flailing, because they're very much in control of the old school tribal console war element of it. But they just seem to be so reluctant to announcing these Xbox games coming to PlayStation, are now coming to PlayStation at the big events. They just seem to not want to do that yet for one reason or another. Whether that is an internal cultural thing within the corporation itself, like we don't want to really be advertising our competitors' games or not, even though it's still making them money at the same time with getting these sales. It just seems to be that every single time one of these, correct me if I'm wrong, but every single time one of these games like Forza Horizon is coming out, that they're not so sort of in your face, this is coming to PlayStation at a big event.
No, it's definitely just, I think the social viral marketing does the work for them. It's like holy shit, there's another Xbox game coming over. It's almost like Xbox does more marketing for PlayStation now than they do.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
And it is that it just gets the headlines of Forza Horizon, top selling game on. I think the all 4 editions of Forza Horizon were in the top 10 PlayStation pre-order lists on wish lists. Yeah. And then on the back of Sea of Thieves, sold millions of units. And now Hellblade's coming. They confirmed in the trailer, new features going to include haptic feedback implementation, support for PS5 Pro, enhanced visuals. I don't think I really needed it. I finished Hellblade 2, I think, over a weekend maybe. Similar to the first one, very short game, dropped on Game Pass. I think started on the Friday night, I was finished by the Sunday, so it's very much wrapped one and done. I always had a sneaky feeling it was going to come to PlayStation, even before Xbox started on this mantra of everything's going to be ported over, just because, if you recall, Hellblade, the original one, was a PS4. It launched on PS4 originally. So that before it even went on Xbox. So the fact that it kind of flip-flopped to the other side and then it had an audience, I always expected it to. It was more of the same. It got a Metacritic of 81. The sound design was stunning. The visuals were gorgeous. Combat left a lot to be desired again. They didn't really expand on the kind of skill tree element of it, but it did tell a really compelling story in such a beautiful cinematic way. But it was one of them where for the 5 odd years it was in development, it felt like finishing it in 2 days was way too short. Very little replayability. So it's no surprise Xbox are double dipping. They haven't said when, they just said summer. So my guess is we might get a dated trailer at the showcase or at Summer Game Fest. Just a quick 2 minutes, here's another trailer. Look how gorgeous this game was. Everyone remember it. Come and maybe even stealth drop it. Who knows? It doesn't take much.
Maybe.
But yeah, I mean, between... Sorry, go on.
I find it fascinating though how supportive these studios are being of using and fully integrating the PlayStation 5 tech, though, things like the haptic feedback and so on, though, when they could just simply be like, well, now we're just going to port the game, quick sell.
It's that sad irony that the best place to play a lot of these Xbox games is on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And me and Richie were talking the other week about the Xbox putting the prices up for all the hardware, across the board, controllers and accessories included. And that in the United States right now, where PlayStation didn't put their prices up last year when Europe and the rest of the world did, is you're at a point where you can get a PS5 Pro for almost on par with Xbox Series X right now. Ooh. If you do a bit of a trade-in or something like that. So then people who want to play the best of the best and don't have a PC, yeah, if you want to go play Indiana Jones, that's got a PS5 release. It's better on PS5 Pro. If you want to go play Hellblade, it's now got haptic feedback. The DualSense controller is best in class as far as controllers go, for just all those little extra bells and whistles. And yeah, we are just at a point where like I'm absolutely stoked for the Gears of War Reloaded, because like I've loved everything I've played, but it was the old 10-year version. To see that with Unreal Engine now, it's going to look great. I'm looking forward to the Halo reboot, but I feel like we're at a point now. Forza's there, Gears is coming, everything in between. Age of Mythology remastered's gone there, Hellblade now, Sea of Thieves is there. Once Halo goes, that's the dam broke. And I don't think there's any other IP that isn't multi-platform. So, yeah, as I said, PlayStation don't care because they're on, 75, 80 million PS5 sold now? They're outstripping Xbox, absolutely. Don't know how the Switch is going to land, but my money's on them doing really well still. I can't see the hunger for a Switch 2 not being on par with the current Switch. So, Xbox, I think they have been kind of resigned to being in third place, but I think credit where credit's due. They've just gone all in Sega, and they're now the biggest publisher on the planet. They publish more games this year on PlayStation than PlayStation have. It's the weird
irony. It's crazy how this whole thing has evolved, isn't it?
Like, remember when we sat down when we made this channel and we were talking about cloud gaming? We were talking about Stadia emerging into the market and then Amazon emerging. You played Luna recently, Tom?
I never even touched it.
Never. No. No. I don't even know where my controller is now. RIP. And then here we are, and Xbox have totally pivoted, and now they publish everything on everywhere. And at the time we were talking about like these distinct brackets of cloud gaming, PlayStation, Nintendo, and yeah, how the industry's changed in the last half a decade is insane. But hopefully it won't have too much impact on democracy, Tom, because we move into our next star of the week, which is we had a nice stealth drop from a Helldiver pod this week. Helldivers 2 Heart of Democracy update is live, and it takes the fight to the streets of Super Earth. So the worst nightmare for anyone who's after managed democracies became a grim reality, Tom. Despite the valiant effort of myself and Rob, and Rich Hughes somehow refuses to play this game still, have been fighting back against the Illuminate and the other creatures in the universe. They've reached Super Earth. Our defenses are down. They're now terrorizing our cities and streets, destroying our infrastructure of our home. Will you repel the invasion, Tom?
We need to get the soldiers together. We need to get the boys together. We need to get into Super Earth. Absolutely.
So all jokes aside of this, new free content drop for Helldivers 2. We're now on Earth, so we actually do have boots on the ground in an urban environment, city streets. Massively changed the perks and stuff that go into this. They didn't up the player count. I was hoping they would up the player count for this one, but it's basically just a free update with new locations. So there's nothing really too much to get into with it. But I just think the marketing for Helldivers has been fantastic, and myself and Rob have absolutely adored it. Richie, for some reason, is holding off for a PlayStation Plus, even though I keep saying like he's almost missed the zeitgeist of it now because it was so fucking good at the time. But I'm hoping Helldivers is just one of them. I've never uninstalled it from my PlayStation. I jump in for every update. I help out my fellow Helldivers when I can. But yeah, Heart of Democracy, cool name for some free expansion. And we criticise PlayStation for games as a service. This is the only one that's really hit.
It's great though, especially thinking back to the old Starship Troopers thing. I just think with Super Earth being under attack, I'm doing my part.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about. And
there we go.
It's one of them where I actually think Helldivers is going to be more successful than Marathon. I don't have high hopes for Marathon at all. It's this weird thing. Like, I love Destiny 1. I put many hours into Destiny 2, and then naturally time got away from me where I wasn't going to play Destiny for several years. It's not in my style. But I've always had a soft spot for Destiny. And then when I saw Marathon, I was like, okay, they're trying to branch away from Destiny. They're not going straight into Destiny 3, which I think is an inevitability. But then everything I've seen from Marathon, I'm just like, you're just another Fair Games. You're just another Concord. Bright neon colours, extraction PvP shooter. And I'm like, it's been done to death now. Like, you need to do something different. And I worry for Bungie. Again, they'll fall back to Destiny 3 and they'll get huge success there. But Marathon just... It might as well.
I just think there's a cultural deep dive to go on with Bungie, but as it's looking at the moment, I have no hope for Marathon whatsoever. I just think it's joining a massively oversaturated market right now, and I just think, I just think it's the wrong, the wrong, just the wrong golden rabbit to be chasing. It's the wrong thing to be looking for.
It's too late, right? It's just too late.
Absolutely.
Like we've sat here and like waxed lyrical about Expedition 33 and Blueprints, and I'm enjoying Assassin's Creed Shadows, although that's feeling a little bit old for me. It's like a long running franchise. But when you're sat in a room and going like, "Right, guys, what are we going to do next?" I don't think a PvP extraction shooter is the answer. It just reeks of it's the same stuff recycled and put out over it. And again, I have absolutely no doubt that it's going to be fun, and the shooting mechanics are going to be best in class. Like Bungie have had the shooting mechanics nailed down for decades at this point.
Yeah, it's their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just think as an audience and knowing the industry, how like we cover it, we've been covering it like weekly for over 5 years now, almost how long this has probably been in development. And I could have told you 5 years ago, this isn't the shout, this isn't the move to make. Yet here we are, and I think Helldivers, it definitely was a surprise for Sony. I think it caught everyone off guard, but the big difference was it's PvE. It was like you weren't fighting just assholes online and massive spikes in skill set. It was just you got on with your mates, you killed some robots, some aliens, some bugs, and you got satisfaction. The loop was fantastic, and I think when I look at Marathon, I'm like, if you, me, Richie, and Rob jumped on, we'd have an absolute blast. We'd have a great time. But then am I going to come back next weekend? Probably not. And then you lose one or two of our team, our fire team, whatever they're going to call it. You get so many points, you hit a wall, you get a couple of matches in a row where you just ain't cutting, you ain't up to snuff. And I sometimes I think is like, is it a generational thing? Am I just getting too old? But then every podcast I listen to through a week, all the gaming reviews and news, you look at the comments and it's just like, no one's feeling it. It's weird. I think once it gets in that, like the zeitgeist, I don't think you can get away from it. Like you could delay it, you could delay the year, you could repackage it, you could rebrand it, but it's like it's almost like the damage is done already before it's even out, and that's mad. But then is this just people are happy playing Apex, people are happy playing Fortnite, people are happy playing Call of Duty Warzone, and here we are. But
absolutely,
is it the neon colours? I don't know. Like Rainbow Six Siege is still going strong, so is PUBG. But I think that's the problem, is because they're going so strong still, there's really just not a space for people who've never played a game like this.
No.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the Marathon trailer right now, if you look at the comments, good luck with the theft trials. Concord 2 is coming along nicely, I see. Oof. That's it. And that's
damn the internet savage.
That's got like 1,000 likes as well. Am I tripping? That trailer's cut kind of weird. It just looks jumpy and trying to make it look more than it is. Plagiarism.
It looks like somebody's copied this from somewhere.
Not sure how I feel. The art style is cool, but the actual gameplay doesn't look interesting. Oh man, that's really cool. Stolen assets from a humble Bungie employee. The speedrunning and the layoff. Why is this game? That's why the game is called Marathon. Crazy how Marathon in 1998 created Bungie, and now it's Bungie that's going to get killed by a Marathon. How poetic. It's like, oh dear me.
Wow. Keep being savage, internet. Wow.
Oh, from the creators of Halo and Destiny. Reminds me of Back 4 Blood and Evolve from the creators of Left 4 Dead. It's like, Jesus. Ruthless. No. You guys aren't the creators of Halo anymore. Those devs are long gone. It's just like, and again, a lot of the people in these comments are probably people who do play Bungie like religiously.
Yeah.
And they have played. This looks like the last 5 shooters that have came out in the last 10 years. It's just like,
that's true. That is just true, isn't it? Like, what do you say to that? How do you evolve that?
There's none of them are good. When does the trailer for Marathon start? It's just like, I will never complain about 343 Studios again. I thought Concord was finished. Why are the graphics getting worse as time goes by? Yeah, it's just it's a rough going out there. So and again, I don't want to take away from anything, because again, it will be fun. It's just like, again, 5 years too late. That we've seen it happen with Ubisoft, haven't we? They've just it's just too late. Gamers are set in their ways, and we like comfort food. We know what we like, and you're not giving it to us as far as devs go. Which is why we get so many remakes, which brings us on to our next story. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, or 3 remake. I don't know if you saw the trailer for this. The opening cutscene, the James Bond-inspired-esque opening with the fantastic Snake Eater song performed by Cynthia Harrell, has been re-recorded, and they've put it out again with some stunning visuals. I listened to it about 15 times while I was preparing for this show last night. I just had it on loop, and when the song finished, I just went back and clicked from the start, because it's such a... If you've never heard the Snake Eater theme song, you're missing out. You're missing out. As a big James Bond fan as well, and I love the fact that they got the original artist back to perform it again, even though it's like 20 years on. I think the lady's probably in her 50s or something now from when she first performed it. To get it back to perform it again, this game's just like... My hype level when I saw this was just... It just went through the roof. It's like August 28th, I think, that we get to see this. Where are you sitting on Snake Eater?
I absolutely love Metal Gear Solid games. Absolutely love them. I am very, very much ready to play Delta. I'm hoping they go through all of them, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that Delta is just them essentially rebooting the series, remaking, essentially in chronological order. I think this time, if they're starting with Delta with Snake Eater, then we go and we see a Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, blah 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 blah. I keep moving up from there.
I think without Kojima, it's the safest bet Konami can do. Because let's face it, if they do a Metal Gear Solid 6 and he's not at the helm, just the industry will just eat that up and just run with it and ruin the whole franchise.
They didn't even finish Phantom Pain. Like, they didn't finish 5. It wasn't finished when it actually came out. It was cut short, so they can't. So their best bet is package it up and go again.
And we've seen the blueprint works. Resident Evil, they've milked that for the last decade now, and it works. It sells gangbuster numbers, and then they reach that point where you can introduce the new ones as well. But if you told me now, Chris, your gaming for the next decade is going to be Gears of War remaster, and then you're going to get a Halo remaster with today's graphics, and you're probably going to get Uncharted 1 remade at some point. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And you get to play a Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. And then over the next decade, you're going to get to play Gears 2 remake, Halo 2 remake, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty remake. Sprinkle that in with your likes of Expedition 33 and your occasional Assassin's Creed game and stuff. I'll be happy with that. I really... I know remasters and remakes get like shit on, but if I get to relive that nostalgia, but in the best visual form possible with modern hardware, I don't care. Like, I'm there for that. I'm down for that. And just this intro just looks stunning, and I can't wait for Richie to experience it, because he's one of these fans where he's a Metal Gear Solid fan, but he's never played 3. To a point where myself, Richie, and Rob, I have like this very distinct memory. We went to Rob's house as kids when it first came out on PS2, and we played through Metal Gear 2 in one sitting. We were up till daybreak. We played through it to a point where the game actually locked Richie as Raiden in a corridor, codec'd him in as the Colonel, saying, "Raiden, you need to take a break." It was like telling him to put the control. Then what we did, we turned it off and we turned it back on, and continued on from the save. We like kind of bypassed it. But yeah, Kojima locked him in a room and said, "You have to stop, have a break," because we played it for that long straight. But he never played 3, and I'm like, oh, like you're going to experience. In my opinion, my favourite one with the best visuals, and the theme song and everything. It's just it's fantastic, and I'm glad they started here without going back to 1, because I think 1 will need a lot more work to it. So I think this is a great test the water, see what the audience is like, test the visuals, what do we tweak, what do we not tweak, and then we go ahead with it. But August can't come quicker for me for this one. Snake Eater looks great.
Nice.
In the meantime, Tom, if Metal Gear nostalgia in Kenya, why not go back to Star Wars Battlefront 2? Because in a surprise, somehow Palpatine returned, Tom. Thanks to the May the 4th celebrations, and it is in Fortnite as well. Star Wars Saga in Fortnite's just wrapping up with the season. And of course, the fantastic Andor Season 2. I, like many people, went straight into watching Rogue One after that.
Yeah.
So seamless. It's perfect. It's like you couldn't write this stuff. You literally can. Star Wars Battlefront 2, fantastic game, which unfortunately got absolutely swamped with microtransaction controversy on launch. Kind of killed it a little bit. It's it's the best Battlefield game you'll ever get. And if you happen to be a Star Wars fan, you'll love it. It's seen a massive resurgence. Its 24-hour peak players, is just short of its all-time peak when it launched 4.5 years ago. So somehow, out of nowhere, it's almost at launch numbers. It's like it's a weird perfect storm of events that have happened, but it is spiked up, and it still looks gorgeous. That's the great thing with games nowadays. Yeah. This game came out in 2017. And it looks beautiful still. If you're a Star Wars fan, you've not played this game, you're missing out massively. It does have a campaign mode. If you remember, focused on Operation Cinder, which was the Emperor's plan to basically fuck everyone over, even though he was dead. And then now we've had subsequently 3 more movies, and Palpatine isn't dead. But that's not the point. I've been championing Battlefront and EA for a long time to just make Battlefront a platform. It doesn't need another number on it. Just call it Battlefront Galaxies or something like that. Star Wars Battlefront Galaxies. Give us all the same maps we've currently got, and then just sprinkle in seasonal content. When there's a Mandalorian season out, drop it then. When the Rogue X-Wing movie comes out, drop content then. But yeah, Battlefront 2 is fantastic. I'm sure you played the original. Did you dabble in the reboot version of it?
I did. I actually played a lot of 2, and really did enjoy it. I fortunately didn't pick it up until after the whole controversy when it first launched. So by the time I got into it, things had settled. Yes, player numbers had settled as well, but I still had a really good playable experience. You know, great jumping on with friends, getting into doing things. I always wished that they did more with like the space battles. Yeah. Really, I never felt like there was enough to that. But you know, here we are. It's great to see that the numbers are up again because you know you and I are both massive Star Wars fans, and at the end of the day, give us more of that stuff. I'm interested in what you've said about the idea of making it like a live service type platform instead, and I think it warrants some sort of discussion to be had about it because yeah, I could see it working. I could very much see it working.
It's one of those platforms where we know the Jedi games do well, Fallen Order, Survivor, but you have to wait like 3 to 4 years for that cycle to come around.
Yes.
And I think, let's face it, Star Wars is never going to go away. It's going to outlive us all. It's going to expand. We're eventually going to get New Republic, Old Republic stuff. There's remakes, there's remasters. I think they put out another collection of the classic games years ago. And I think as a platform, Battlefront ticks so many boxes. You've got the heroes v villains fights. So you've got your poster people there. You've got, as you said, your vehicle combat, which I think there is an element of stuff that could do a lot more layers to that. Similar to how Battlefield does it, how you've got such a large scale. I would love to see vehicles implement. I know in the old games, you used to be able to land in the hangar, go in and sabotage the ship from within rather than just attack it from outside. There's something there with that one.
Yeah.
And then again, like the massive like 100v100 Battlefield style fights, they're just so fun because like stormtroopers and stuff and rebels, like they are cannon fodder. That's what they do in the movie. They just get sent out to die. And I think that all mixed together with seasonal content, I think it's the only platform of game I think that could keep it alive, as you said. Pod racing, hell yeah, add that in at some point. Could you imagine this game as it sits now, where it's just about to reach its peak? If they added like a pod racing element in for like next May the 4th, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, it's like Forza but with pod races instead." People would pop off for that shit, and then as you said, just keep building on it. When the Mandalorian movie comes out, discount across all Mandalorian skins and jetpacks, and just add like special like weekend promotions in. Did you play the Ewok hunt?
I did. There's probably some of the most fun I had in that game.
So good. Yeah. Like, who thought of just adding a horror element where Ewoks become like Chucky in the dark, running around with little knives and throwing bumblebee nests at you?
Decimating stormtroopers.
It's so good. And as I said, if they make more movies, like just add the character. There's so many Jedi we missed out on, like in terms of skins and cosmetics. Star Wars is rife for that, right? Give me an ET cosmetic, take him out of the Senate, let me run around as ET chasing Ewoks. Why not? And I think it's one of them franchises where I think because it's so perpetual, because it's got the Disneyland area now as well, I think that's when it feeds into itself. We see it with Mario Land now. It's like, yeah, you go to the parks as a kid, then you come home and you play the games, and then as a family you watch the movie. And Star Wars has all that. It has so many tendrils out and there's so many elements of pop culture. I think having a platform to keep building on, it works. And I think Battlefront seeing the success 7 years later shows there's a hunger for it. And EA seemingly burnt their bridges with that game, but then they've reworked it back up with Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. So EA is surely there to just go, right, I tell you what, you're not doing anything with Battlefield, because let's face it, I think Battlefield's done as well. 2042 shit the bed too much. Call of Duty is always going to be the biggest. So you almost wonder, like, why keep trying when you could just make a Battlefront 3? But as you said, yeah, I think games as a service, it's the place I would like to see this. Same with Helldivers. I don't think they should have called it Helldivers 2. I think it should have just been Helldivers again and just went from there as a platform. But I get number 2. Like the next Destiny, it shouldn't be Destiny 3. It should just be Destiny, insert subtitle word or something.
Yeah. And
we'll go from there. Yeah, love it. Love the nostalgia. I kind of want to go play it now as well after seeing. I was like, oh, it's been a good while.
You know what? I've literally just been thinking, like, you ought to download on the PlayStation right now.
and it still looks so good. That's the great thing with gaming now. Is like 10-year-old games look fantastic still. Just like Rayman, who's back with his limbless body. He is now coming back. We spoke about it and covered it on the show many, many months ago, actually, where Ubisoft were talking about Rayman. They were thinking about, do we go ahead with it? And at the time, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown came out, won loads of awards, and what did Ubisoft do? Disbanded the team.
Yeah.
So they just made a fantastic 2D platformer, won loads of plaudits in loads of Game of the Year conversation, and Ubisoft just got rid of them all. They've been spread to the wind amongst Ubisoft. Now the rumor is that, yeah, there's a project being worked on, and apparently Rayman has been pushed ahead from a scope and exploration phase into a full-on title coming out. There's some job listings up there for senior game designer, searching for working on 3D animators for a prestigious AAA title on the Rayman brand. So it's been a while. It's been over a decade since we had Rayman Legends with all the music. I could see most of the people who worked on Lost Crown jumping over to this. Yeah. It seems like a natural progression if you've worked on a 2D platformer. Yeah, I'd love to see raw Rayman.
Yeah, it's one of those that we grew up with, isn't it? It was, staple at the time of the Crash and Spyro era.
Get it in there. But sure. Let's round out the show with some quick news stories for games we've not spoke about yet. Warhammer, Dawn of War, Tom. I don't know if you played the original one.
It's one of these things that I feel like I have every single one of them in my Steam library from, or even Epic Games and stuff like that, but never really got into them, never really tried them.
It's the best way I can explain Dawn of War in particular is it's Command and Conquer, but with Warhammer. That's all you really need to know. It's, you've got your bases, you've got your setups, you've got your different types of troops. You put them into groups and you just go and attack orcs, or you go and attack other factions. It's getting a definitive edition. So Dawn of War definitive edition is coming later on this year. It's the original 2004 one that's got 8 out of 10 Metacritic, 8 out of 10, 80 out of 10 Metacritic. More than over 200 maps, 4 classic Dawn of War campaigns, 9 armies, all just repackaged, remade, and put out on PC once again. So I think like yourself, I own them as part of just like a mega Warhammer bundle that I picked up when Space Marine 2 came out. And this is back to the same point we were saying earlier on, of just games are always going to be coming with remakes, and I don't mind. And I'm sure this one will get remade again in another 20 years' time to look even better. And I'll be there for that one as well when I'm in my 50s. And I'm like, Jesus, I remember playing this when I was 18 or something like that. Yeah, Dawn of War, getting a reboot. Did you ever check out Space Marine 2?
Again, on the list. On the list.
I'll add it to the list. That's one I'd say you have to experience on the big screen. I know the certain stuff works well on the Portal, but yeah, seeing all that, it made me a huge Warhammer fan. I think I said to Richie, I was like, I've always been into it, but Space Marine 2 made me go out and buy like the Warhammer 40k, not annual, it was like the history of Warhammer 40k, just to read about all the factions and learn about it. So yeah, to see the older games getting more love alongside, I think Bolt Gun was really, really well received as well, and then Space Marine 3 has already been greenlit over at Embracer, so you're going to be seeing much more of this, and of course, the Henry Cavill universe that's about to pop off in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the next, like you had like your Lord of the Rings wave, the Game of Thrones wave. I think Warhammer's that next big IP that's ready to pop for me. So we'll see more of that. A couple of quick updates to some retro games. Xbox have announced this week that Retro Classics are coming to Xbox Game Pass. It seems to be a home for basically, and when I say retro, Tom, I mean old school retro, like early 80s, like Mech Warrior. But when Activision had all the type of games that were just called Pong, checkers, boxing, space shooter. Like they weren't really that creative when it came to some of their names. Dolphin, Grand Prix, Dragster. Like these are the titles. Game Pass has a special selection of them now. Under Retro Classics, you can go in, it'll show you the PSX 2600, SNES, Activision, Sierra, Amiga, and you just go in and they're all included. Don't expect loads from these, I think, graphically. It's kind of like when, who was it on Stadia who started doing all that? Oh, it was Atari, wasn't it? Who started putting out all of their remark, and some of them were great, like, not Caterpillar, what was the name? Millipede? Centipede, yeah. Centipede. I knew it was some kind of bug creature. It was really fun, but it looked visually great. These are just the old ones repackaged with modern day tact to them. Same with Switch Online. It's got 4 new games dropping now. They're available now. Game Boy titles. We've got Survival Kids, Gradius, The Interstellar Assault, Kirby Star Stacker, not Tracker, and The Sword of Hope are available now. So if you've got Switch Online, you can jump in and play these classics. Any of these familiar to you? I don't reckon I had a Game Boy, but I very much played Pokemon on my Game Boy.
Yeah, I think the only obviously we know who Kirby is. Yeah, obviously. And Gradius is one of your side-scrolling space shooters. So another one of those. Really.
I do love a side-scrolling space shooter.
Yeah.
Well, we've got Survival Kids from Konami, first being in 1989. It pops players into the shoes of either a boy named Ken or a girl named Mary who's become stranded on a desert island. That's all it tells us on the blog. So it doesn't give us any more of that. Gradius, as he said, just a side scooter. This is set in space with horizontal scrolling gameplay. That's as much as we can get. Kirby Star Stacker is a Kirby spin-off game which is more puzzle-focused with a block-falling mechanic akin to Tetris. Right. Oh, that makes sense, Star Stacker. Actually, now I've said that out loud. It's where every franchise, like we had Dr. Mario.
Yeah, basically sounds a bit Candy Crush.
Yeah, any IP, just whack it in there with that. And then The Sword of Hope is a fantasy bent adventure. Take the role of Prince Theo, whose father, King Hennessy, has been corrupted by an evil dragon.
I wonder if King Hennessy's the same guy who makes the whiskey.
It might be. It might be just a drunk ass king all the time.
Corrupted by an evil dragon, though.
That could be just the metaphor for alcohol, Tom. Just drank way too much. And then the final stories for the week are we're getting an Elden Ring movie. Official Elden Ring movie adaptation in development. They tweeted out this week from the official Bandai Namco. They've partnered with A24 film company and From Software. George R. Martin is one of the handful of producers. So this guy just doing everything in his power to avoid writing that final book. He really, really is. Like, you should see Richie's face every time it comes up because he was a massive fan of the books before the show even began. So yeah, he ain't writing was it Winds? What's he writing? Wind of Winter.
Yeah, Winds of Winter.
Yeah. But he's involved, of course, as the person who wrote a lot of the lore for the original Elden Ring game. We've recently had Elden Ring Night Rain lined up as well, which is like the kind of multiplayer spin-off of it. Mixed reviews I'm seeing for that one. I think taking the Elden Ring formula and going multiplayer doesn't seem to have as one-to-one fit as I think From Software would like. But again, I think they're just trying to generate a bit more funding from this IP while they go into the next one. But yeah, Bandai Namco Entertainment. What are your thoughts on an Elden Ring movie?
I don't know how I'm feeling at the moment about the movie landscape because I just feel like there's so much like video game IP that's being purchased, like the rights for movies currently, that I'm struggling to see how all of them mesh out. Yes, I know Elden Ring is hugely popular in the video game space, but as a movie, I'm sort of feeling like I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. It's like if somebody said to me, "Oh yeah, we're making a Dark Souls movie or we're making a Bloodborne movie." I'm just a bit like, I've played those games and I've been in that lore and I've been in that world where I've been reading item descriptions and reading different things, and I'm still sort of sitting there. Maybe it's beyond my scope of intellect.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a dum-dum who sits here and just goes, I don't get this. I want to play my game. Yeah, sometimes I feel like it's very intellectual, and but each to their own, I suppose.
I do feel like there's more than enough lore to write a phenomenal story. It's just kind of like, who do you pick and focus on? Because there's such big strands that you can branch off into in the Elden Ring world. Like, I'm watching a YouTube playthrough of it because, again, I'm never going to play from soft game. They're just not my cup of tea. But I totally appreciate and respect like the lore and the world that they create. And I think the channel that I watched, they had to take a break from it because it was so long in the tooth. And they went right down the rabbit hole in terms of the lore and the storytelling and stuff. And I think they did like 35 episodes or something, took a break, and then they're back now. And you just think, yeah, like, you're going to obviously have to focus on one particular storyline to make a like coherent movie. And I think that could be great because then that just means they can franchise the shit out of it and you get more and more and more. I think Elden Ring's that big of an IP and it had such success. I think just making it into a movie alone would pull enough people over to the cinema to make a profit. And then if it happens to be a good movie, you get the people who are like, oh, what's this new fantasy movie that's came out? But I think it is on a knife's edge with if it could be really good or really bad. And I guess we'll have to see how that one pans out.
Mate, just give me a Sekiro movie. I need my Japanese samurai vibes.
It's that thing of like, if it's successful, I could easily see them double dipping and doing that, and then you get Dark Souls, and we might get a Bloodborne movie from PlayStation Productions, and who knows? But you won't get them anytime soon. And that does bring us to an end to this week's show. Thank you very much. We, of course, do like to end every episode by looking back at this day in video game history. We're recording on Saturday, the 24th of May. So looking back at this day, is there anything particular from this list that jumps out for you, Tom, in yesteryear?
I mean, yeah, as soon as I loaded up the list, the first game that came out 34 years ago in 1991, Princess Maker? What? Okay. Looking through the list quickly.
I don't even want to look into that.
I know, neither do I. Okay. No, some Persona spin-offs. Splitgate, 6 years ago. Splitgate 2's just, working on its way out at the moment.
Quite quiet. Oh, there's one for me. 7 years ago on PS4, we got Detroit Become Human.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Really enjoyed that one. And then that also kind of reminds me that Detroit Become Human, they've not put out a game since. So it's been 7 years since we saw anything. That was the last game they made in contract with PlayStation. They had 3. So they did Heavy Rain, the one with Elliot Page. My mind's like Beyond Two Souls.
Beyond Two Souls, yeah.
Then Detroit Become Human. They're making Star Wars Eclipse. If you remember the trailer we got for that 4 years ago.
No, we don't talk about Eclipse because it's been out there for so long now. We haven't seen anything about it. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's really like Detroit was great, but yeah, Quantic Dream. What the hell are you doing over there? Because 7 years, we're getting to Rocksteady levels of wasting time. 2 years ago, Lord of the Rings Gollum came to
again platforms. Another game we don't talk about.
That's very different reason. Very different reason. And then I'm gonna go for 16 years ago. We got the very first Infamous title on PlayStation 3. Which again just kind of left to the world. Like they're doing all this shit with live service games, and you think you're sitting on franchises that have a huge fan base. It hasn't had a remaster. It hasn't had a remake. But then they go and do Days Gone instead. And you're like, I feel like you would have sold more copies doing something else. But who knows? Anything else for you before we round out?
Just a quick shout out for Watch Dogs, actually, 11 years ago. Yeah.
11 years. See, been and gone in 11 years. Absolutely. Watch Dogs, we got 3 games, came and went. Yeah. And Quantic Dream have managed 1 game in Detroit Become Human. Rocksteady managed 1 game in the form of Suicide Squad. Absolutely crazy. Watch Dogs. I enjoyed Watch Dogs 1 and 2, and then 3 kind of shit the bed, unfortunately. But we won't be doing that here on the channel because we're here to talk about games. That's been it for episode number 93. Tom, episode number 464 in total.
Nice.
It's a nice palindrome episode there. But
wow.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at GamerGuildTV, like this very show, like our weekly live streams, and our special limited run series of the Clicker Cast, which will be back for its finale with me and Richie breaking down HBO's fantastic The Last of Us show, before taking an inevitable 2-year hiatus before we're back for Season 3. Season 4 confirmed this week as well, so we'll probably be back for that at some point when we're in our 40s. Which I said as a joke, but now I'm thinking about it, it's probably going to be true.
It's probably accurate.
Which is painful.
Yes.
I'll have finally moved house by then as well, at least. But that's been it for episode 93. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
And we'll see you next time. Remember, folks, play wherever makes you the happiest. Take care. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.